Fresh and Buds.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Fresh and Buds. This is episode 34, and I am joined by someone that I'm glad to have met and gotten to know over the past few months. It is nobody else but Rick from BCW. How you doing, Rick?
I'm doing wonderful, brother. Thank you for having me on. It is a pleasure to be here. I saw your podcast and listened to your podcast when I first got started, but I guess we'll get into that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I know we've been trying to get you on for a while, and we finally got you on. You know, multiple people have said that they've looked forward to both of our voices because we both have kind of like the deeper. I mean, your voice, you know, I gotta say is like butter to my ears. So I gotta say.
Hey, have you thought about getting your hearing checked? That's all I'm gonna ask. This is what talking at loud volumes for a long period of time will do to your voice. That and yelling and screaming at children. So yeah, that's how you get it if you want to get there.
Well, I hope to get there one day. And I actually had opened up some listener questions to my Discord, and one of the questions was like, "Oh, how do you get that groveling voice?" And I said, "I'm probably from living one hell of a life." So, but before we get into the meat of the podcast, let's do a pretty quick crack a pack. I have a pack of Everfest in front of me.
Awesome.
While I'm opening this, what are your thoughts on Everfest?
I honestly love Everfest. I know that it has some cards in it that are extremely overpowered, based on previous sets. But I love what it did for Blitz. I love the Blitz format so much, and to see heroes that didn't have a specialization get a specialization, and cards that were designed more for Blitz heroes in mind. Like when you look at some of the warrior cards, all the one-handed weapon stuff, you're like, they made this for Kasai, they made this for Bolton, they made this for an Axis build. Like, it is so invigorating when one supplemental set can come out and change an entire game, and I really feel that's what Everfest did.
Yeah, it really did. Especially the Blitz format. Really, it's not everybody's favorite, but it is one of the best formats for new players to kind of get into the game. And I think you're looking at some of these results from the current Blitz skirmish season, and you're seeing like 5 to 6 to 7 different heroes in the top 8s. It's pretty cool. And you're right. I think Everfest really played a huge part in that. But we do have a card first here, Wild Ride. It's the red one. This is a card that I've seen played in many different brute lists. This is from its release. It's the 2 for a 6. You draw a card, discard a card random. If it's 6 or more is discarded this way, gains go again.
Yep, and that is actually a very playable card, because discarding can trigger Intimidate if you're on the Rhinar, which just is something Rhinar is looking to do. And the fact that it draws a card then discards means that it can actually just take the top card of your deck. And that's important because a lot of times if you have to block with a card, Rhinar and most brutes are very hand hungry. So being able to get that effect and get that discard can really punish your opponent. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've seen it played in a little bit of Leviathan out there too. We do have another brute card. This is Bare Fangs. This is the yellow one, but it's 2 for a 5 attack, 0 block. It has the same kind of effect. Draw a card, discard a card at random. If a card was 6 or more, it's discarded this way. It gets +2. I don't know if this one's really getting into the list. I mean, the red one, maybe. I think you want Go Again a little bit more than the Pump. What are your experiences with that card?
I would 100% agree. Normally I'm looking for yellows because I want to be able to pitch or a weapon attack with most of the attacks in the deck, so it misses the mark on only having 5 on a yellow, so I definitely wouldn't run this card. And for the added benefit, the trigger effect of the discard being a 6 or greater, getting +2 really isn't as relevant as getting go again for more damage coming out of your brute class.
Yeah. Next, we have Phantasmal Haze. This is the blue one. This is 3 for a 6 attack illusionist. 3 defense, has Phantasm, and if it is destroyed, create a Spectral Shield token. Now, Illusionist got a lot out of the set, but I don't think this is one that is really setting the world on fire.
No. The yellow may be playable because it's a yellow pitch, which is kind of important. Creating Spectral Shields is important for Illusionist, but I really think that a lot of the Illusionist cards that we got out of Everfest are for a yet to be released Illusionist.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll probably see it sooner rather than later. Next, we have Outland Skirmish. This is the red one. I believe this card sees quite a bit of play. 0 for a warrior action. Your next one-handed weapon attack this turn gains +3. The next time a weapon attack hits its turn, create a copper token.
It does see play in my Kasai list. I posted a deck tech video last week on the Fat Breakdown. With Kasai, this card is bonkers. The copper token generation is very important for Kasai specifically, and I love that card. It's really good.
It is very good. I've been on the other end of the Outland Skirmish, and it is quite potent. Next, we have Veiled Intentions. This is a illusionist action. 1 for the next attack action card you play this turn is an illusionist. In addition to its other card types, gains +2 Phantasm, and when it's destroyed, draw a card. This is essentially somewhat of a reprint, right? What's it? Phantasmify? Is that the card that does something similar?
Yes, it's like a new Phantasmify. It's another pump for your Spectra attacks, essentially.
Yeah,
or for any attack, really. But
yeah, this is another one that seems more for the next brand of illusionist that we get coming out. And then we got Red Fatigue Shot. This is a card I see actually a lot of play. It is 1 for a 5 attack, 3 defense, ranger action arrow. When it hits a hero, the base attack of their first attack action card they play during their next turn is halved, rounded up.
Yep, and that is a card that actually is a phenomenal sideboard card for any ranger, Lexi or Azalea, trying to take down Starvo, because it really neuters their big attack turns if you can line it up correctly.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's got some fair game against Brute and anything that wants to go tall, really.
Yep.
Next, we got Payload. This is 2 for a 5 attack. This is the yellow one. 2 for a 5 attack, 3 defense. Mechanologist action. If you've boosted this combat chain, it gains Dominate.
I love this card. Not the yellow. I play the red in my CC list. I play the blue in my CC list. In my Blitz list, I'm playing I believe I play the yellow in my Blitz list. Dominate at the end of the attack. So typically, when you're going on a boost dash plan, you definitely want something to kind of punch through that final bit of damage, and you're going to be boosting anyway. So it's a mechanologist card. It ticks all the boxes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's potent. It's good finisher, and it's good to boost off the top as well. The foil is Bad Beats. This is the red one. 0 for brute action, 3 defense. Roll a 6-sided die. If the number rolled is a 4, 5, or 6, the next brute attack action card you play this turn gains +5. So you got a 50% chance.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think this is a card that people may try to play around with KO. I don't really see it being better than some of the other non-attack action cards in Brute.
Yeah, I agree. It's just not really getting there. Rares, High Striker. This is the red one. 0 for a generic action, 2 defense. Next time an attack you control hits this turn, create 6 copper tokens. Go again. Is this something that Kasai wants or no?
I don't run it. 6 copper tokens is the magic number for blood on our hands. Um, I I don't hate it, but I'm not a fan of it.
Yeah.
It's just you want your actions to have more impact, and that's just my personal opinion.
It seems a little bit win more because, if,
Yep.
if you're in the situation, especially with Kasai, where you can guarantee the hits, high strikers, I mean, it could have been anything else. Could have been something better.
Well, you want go again. You
Mm-hmm.
want to give a weapon go again more than you want to create 6 on a hit.
Absolutely. Now, the last rare is Release the Tension. 0, this is the red one, 0 for a ranger action, 2 defense. Your next arrow attack this turn gains +3, and defense reactions can't be played from Arsenal this chain link. Go again. A little bit of a weird anti Arsenal thing. I don't know if this sees any play. I don't play a lot of Ranger. And I don't think I've ever had it played against me.
Well, I will say this: pre Everfest, I think this would have been a home run card for Ranger.
Mm-hmm.
Because back then everybody was, I mean, it was just default. Part of it was card availability as far as for specific heroes. They didn't have enough good cards to run. So you were just cramming in 3 Fate Foreseen, 3 Sink Below Red
Mm-hmm.
in your deck. Now we see more aggro and less defense reactions in the arsenal. And there's also less dominate, except for Starvo, where that would be a benefit to Arsenal. That
Yeah. It's just too little, too late for that card, I think. But that's the crack pack. It was a fun one. Fortunately, didn't get any Majestics or anything spicy, but
I apologize. I mean, you did get some good warrior tech.
yeah,
At least one
absolutely.
good card.
Yeah. So now let's get to know you a little bit, Rick. Where does the Rick story begin?
Specifically with gaming.
Yeah,
This is
with
well,
gaming.
no,
Yeah.
right. I was gonna. I'm saying that specifically with gaming, I'm going to tell a tale that needs a disclaimer. Children, do not do what I did. Just trust me. I was in high school. I was a freshman. One of my friends was a senior. Seniors were allowed to drive to school. This is 1994, I believe. And one of the stores called the Game Preserve had got in Magic the Gathering. And one of my friends was a senior, went to go to lunch and asked if I wanted to go with him. I got to pass out. And we went to this game store instead of going and getting food. And we bought a starter and like 2 or 3 random booster packs. And we stayed at the game store for the rest of the day, learning how to play Magic and playing games with just random pile of cards that we had. And kind of forgot to go back to school. So, of course, my parents get a phone call that I left early and was marked truant. And then I had to explain to my mom where I was. So once I recovered from the being knocked out by my mother, I fell in love with playing games. So it started with Magic back in 1994. Magic led into an addiction to Warhammer 40K, which led into tabletop role playing and board gaming, and all the while juggling all of these wonderful, wonderful games. That's where it started. Don't skip school to get into a game. Bad idea.
I mean, you know what? It turned out all right for you. So, yeah, I do not condone it, but
Right.
I'll be honest with you. I would have done the same thing, and it's easy to kind of forget to go back to school. Come on, nobody wants to go there, but that's a great start. Now, how serious were you about these other games? Was Magic the main focus for you?
Okay, so when I first started playing, no, I was in high school. I was a broke high school student. It was playing with my friends in the lunchroom and stuff like that. I graduated high school. I was more into Warhammer 40K and Warhammer Fantasy, now called Age of Sigmar, which is a miniature tabletop uh, game. Uh, I moved to Atlanta, Georgia in 2000, and I started playing Magic competitive down there. And I had a lot of fun playing Magic, and this is Mirrodin block era. So, you know, we're having a lot of Arcbound Ravengers and Affinity and Tooth and Nail Entwine and stuff like that. Um, and I came back home for a visit, and a friend of mine introduced me to a card game put out by Cosmic Images called WWF Raw Deal. And I got hooked playing Raw Deal. And I started playing that game extremely competitive. So that was my first foray into real competitive, was a wrestling card game.
Now, were you always a big wrestling fan?
As a kid, yes. The Attitude Era, I'm fortunate enough to be old enough to have your life shaped by like Stone Cold Steve Austin and the DX and the takeovers, and getting to see WCW and WWF or WWE. I was WWF back then, but getting to see the Monday Night Wars and Nitro and all that, that was the pinnacle of wrestling, in my opinion. And I don't watch it anymore. Occasionally I'll turn it on. I just, I don't know. It doesn't hit the same as it did when I was a kid.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, it is interesting. I've noticed that a lot of the Flesh and Blood community has been, or still is, into the wrestling culture. But I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just, you know, just kind of hits all the right spots for everyone. Now, BCW. Can you kind of give us a little bit of a background on BCW and your involvement in particular?
BCW is a family-owned company. We're not a large conglomerate like some of our competitors. We're a family-owned business. It originally started out as Baseball Card World. That's where the BCW comes from. But we've since dropped Baseball Card World, and it's now just BCW Supplies. We started out in the 1980s making the 9-pocket pages for binders and white cardboard boxes for card storage. It was started by a gentleman with the last name of Kruger, who was a engineer for GM, and he and his son would go vend baseball cards at card shows back in the 80s, and he noticed a huge lack of supplies. Top loaders and things like that weren't as readily available as they are in modern times. And he just had the idea, so he just started making some small print runs, and that kind of grew into what became BCW now. My involvement with them started 7 years ago, and prior to that, I was a corporate trainer for a rather large company. I did professional adult training classes, preparing people to do customer service work via the phone. And no, we weren't the people calling you about your extended car warranty. Excuse me. But we are, you know, I did that for a long time, and I really got burned out on that. I saw an ad online while I was looking for other employment opportunities, and BCW was hiring, and I put in an application. I said, worst thing they're going to do is tell me no, and instead they hired me, and here I am now. I started off doing customer service and logistics, and now I am in charge of the events management. I do video production, photography, social media, interactions. I work directly with the marketing team, report directly to the marketing manager for BCW.
Yeah, and it seems to be going pretty well. You've developed quite an awesome fan base so far. Now, you're talking about BCW
Oh,
being.
also product development. Sorry,
You're good.
I also help develop products. So some of the products that BCW offers came from our product design team, and I'm part of that. So
Yeah, and I mean,
my bad.
you're good. I mean, it is, it seems to be a really strong brand. But when you said that, it's a family-owned company and kind of like
Mhm.
small in comparison to your, other competitors in the market, it does remind me a little bit of a little game and company, Flesh and Blood and LSS. Kind of a small fish, big pond. You know, and it is the comparisons are there now. When did Flesh and Blood come into play for you? The game that we have collectively grown to know and love.
Well, I'm a relatively late adapter to Flesh and Blood. I came in at Monarch Unlimited uh, because I was told about the game in 2019 at a convention. I was at PAX Unplugged, and a friend of mine who works in distribution as a purchaser goes, "Hey, there's this hot new collectible card game called Flesh and Blood. You definitely need to check it out." And I said, "I definitely will." But at the time, I was managing our Magic team, Team BCW, and I was planning all of our big conventions for the next year. And then COVID broke when I was at Gamma Expo in 2020, and I was out in Reno, and airports started shutting down, and the world kind of went a little crazy, like for a good reason. Like everybody started working remote, and all of a sudden you're learning new job skills and how to cope with certain things. And yeah, I totally forgot about it. Fast forward to I think May or June of 2021. That same said friend goes, "Hey, do you ever check into that game? It's really catching fire." And I was like, "No, but I probably should have." And then I started looking into it, and I bought a couple boxes, and I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna try making some content." Because I manage people that make content, but I don't make content myself. So if I'm going to ask them to do something, I need to be able to do it myself.
Mm-hmm.
I need to know what I'm asking of them. And so I filmed a box opening, and the first box I opened, the video is the first Flesh and Blood video on YouTube, I believe, for BCW, and it was a WTR Unlimited where I opened a Heart of Fendel, and didn't even realize that it was a Fable because it didn't have the marking on the bottom of it as far as like what rarity symbol it was. And I stumble on the camera, and I left it in there even after I came back and went, yeah, we did it. We opened a Fable. Wow. The next box I opened them both the same day, and I put them up at 2 different days just because I was still learning how to edit videos and make videos and everything. Was a box of Arcane Rising Unlimited, and I opened the eye.
Oh my god!
In that, and it's the first 2 boxes I've ever opened of this game, and I've opened 2 Fables, and I'm like, I guess they're not that hard. It says it's supposed to be like, what is it, 1 out of 40 cases or something,
Like one in 1,000
boxes.
packs or something like that, or crazy.
Yeah. And I'm like, wow, okay. Since then, I've only opened 1 other Fable, and it was a couple weeks ago at an armory event. I got a pack entry. You pay your money, and you get a pack for paying money and playing in the league. And I opened my 3rd Fable that way. All the other Fables I've owned, I've had to buy. So,
oh man, well you're beating me 3-0. I'll tell you that. But that's pretty intense way to start out in the, at least I mean, both in Flesh and Blood and in content creation. I mean, like, come on, that's incredible. Now, you've obviously been playing it since then as well, not just collecting. Do you have a favorite hero?
I love most of the heroes for different reasons. I know it's a generic answer. My favorite is Dash because it's what I won a Road to Nationals with, and I really do like a lot of the things the mechanologist has to offer. Just it's really not great in this current meta. I also am a huge fan of Viscerai, which is a little opposite in now. It used to be kind of middle of the road, and now really, really good. Um, but I like. I think every hero has something unique to offer, and unfortunately, I'm one of those people that I just want to play them all.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I feel that in my bones. I mean, I've gotten to the point where I'm kind of ruling out some heroes that I play like once or twice. I'm like, I can't do it, and then I'm back on Leviah, and that's where I stay. But um, what are your aspirations for Flesh and Blood, both like personally and professionally? Kind of going forward.
I am enjoying the community. I'm enjoying the game. I want to just continue to enjoy it. Yes, I like to play competitive. Yes, I like to attend as many events as I possibly can, but I don't want to get to the point where I'm grinding it, where it loses its fun.
Mm-hmm.
That's my personal. Professionally, I would love to continue to make content, and I would. My ultimate goal is to be on coverage for a calling or for a major event. I would love the opportunity to do that.
Oh, I think you got a pretty good chance of it. I mean, you got the timber, and you got some great friends in the coverage world as well. Our mutual friend, of course, Mister Flake. So in I would say that Flesh and Blood really started to kick up, with their organized play announcement, right?
Mhm.
They kind of came out and said, you know what, Magic isn't doing it anymore, but we're gonna do it. We're gonna basically take their old kind of platform or blueprint, and we're gonna put it out there. And you saw a lot of people come to the game then. Now it's been a long time since Magic the Gathering had a Pro Tour, but they just announced a new PT system, and you had mentioned previously that you kind of worked with the team BCW that played Magic at one point.
Mhm.
Um, I have to imagine. Does this mean things are going to get a little bit busy for you with Magic, kind of paper Magic specifically, kind of coming back into the realm here?
We'll have to wait and see. Like, I still work with Team BCW. I still help run the events, but it's not like it was. Everything Team BCW used to do before was with pretty much through Star City,
Mm-hmm.
back when they had the tour. Now they're doing the SCG Con, which there's only going to be 12 of them, or 10 of them, I think, rather. And so I'm not as busy because I'm not juggling, you know, 20 some events every 6 months. I'm two or three in that time span. Paper Magic is kind of coming back, but if you follow it, there's not a lot of people happy about the PPTQ system that they're bringing back. It's being run now through different third parties. So,
Mm-hmm.
like here in the US, it's DreamHack that's going to be handling it. And when you boil it down, it's a system that a lot of people didn't like, which was the PPTQ to an RPTQ to the PT system, where you had to pay to play in an event. Then you had to go play in another event, and if you won the first event, you got the right to go play in another event, and if you won that event, then you got to go to the Pro Tour.
Mm-hmm.
And like that creates a lot of feel bads. Whereas in Flesh and Blood, they kind of took a similar approach with the ProQuest system, but they went, hey, if you win a ProQuest, you get to go to the Pro Tour. Like, they cut out that middle step.
Yeah.
There's more paths to making it to a professional event than there are in Magic. And I think the Flesh and Blood system is better overall.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And now I remember when I played Magic pretty, somewhat seriously. It was more like the ProQuest system that we see. It was just the PTQ. There was no
Right.
PPT. It's so hard to say PPTQ and then RPTQ. That came like later, and I think when that kind of came about, I personally was like, well, I have to qualify, like it felt a little bit um, convoluted in a way. It felt like, oh, what are we doing here? But that was one thing that Flesh and Blood, I think, really personally nailed home. Kind of keeping it pretty mainline, but yeah. I mean, we'll see it. I mean, I wish the best for Magic the Gathering and all the people that want to play it. We will
Right.
see if we will see if it works out for them. But uh, we think Flesh and Blood has some of their own things to worry about right now. But before we get to that,
Yeah, just a
uh,
few.
yeah, we do have some listener questions.
Right.
Popped it out on to the Discord, the buds. You guys can ask these questions as well. The link is in the link tree. Um, Greg from the Discord here asks, "What's your favorite event you've been to?" And I think he's been a little bit cheeky here. He asked if you backed the Professor's Kickstarter.
Well, so my favorite event that I went to, it's a toss up. It's either Vegas because it was the first calling, or Nationals, just because I was more comfortable with a lot of people and got to like hang out and talk to a bunch of people, and really started meeting people for the first time at Nationals. So I love both of those events. Uh, Favorite overall, my back went out in Vegas, so I'm gonna say Orlando. I'm gonna say Nationals and the Orlando Calling
All right.
was my favorite event. And then, did I back the Professor's Kickstarter deck box? The answer to that is no. I prefer using BCW product.
Good answer. Good answer. I was actually down in Orlando. We didn't get to meet then, but I'm glad we've met since. And it's been a great time. Bobby in the Discord does ask your thoughts on the collectability of Flesh and Blood playmats, because we do see some of these playmats, very expensive, and rightfully so. They're beautiful and hard to get. What are your thoughts on that? And will BCW offer more storage options for them? And he also puts a little side note here that he loves your fab videos, by the way.
Well, in that case, no. I'll answer the question. So, do I think that they are collectible, or what the collectability of them is? I think anything that you have that somebody else wants is a collectible.
Mhm.
Within reason. You can't sell children, but um, you can't. Don't
Yeah.
laugh at me. I've got a teenager. Come on, man. Like,
Yeah.
no. The truth is yes, there's collectability, there's rarity, there's scarcity. There are special ones to some people who love certain artwork or certain artists. So yes, there is collectability. Um, I do think BCW offers a lot of storage options. We have our playmat tubes where you can store them in tubes, but we also designed a top loader, which is just like what you would think of. You put your cards in, but we made one for playmats. So we do have storage options to store them flat and protect them from dust, dirt, and staining. Now you can't roll it up or use it in the playmat, obviously, but
Mhm.
it is a great way to store them. I have several. In fact, sitting right by my desk, I have one that has a Black Lotus on it that Christopher Rush drew in 2015 at GP Indy. Uh, so yeah, that is being protected in a BCW playmat top loader.
Yeah.
So other storage options are going to be really hard because you're going to probably want to store them long term flat,
Mhm.
and playmats stored flat like that, even in a top loader, is going to take up a lot of space and a lot of weight. So I think top loaders are the best way to store them, and I think storing them flat is the best way to store them. But yes, I do think they're also collectible.
Yeah, I would agree. And I've seen some people, kind of put them in those top loaders and put them, display them on the wall, and stuff like that. I know a couple of listeners have done that, which is pretty neat. But I wish I had that kind of like that inkling to do that, but I just want to whip them out and play with them. So I can't.
Well,
I
that's
can't
when
help
you
it.
use a tube. That's when you use a playmat tube.
Yep.
Problem solved.
Yep. So we're gonna get to the main topic here, which is kind of our reactions to the banned and restricted announcement that came this week. But before we get to that, I want to ask you, what is your opinion on the state of the game right now and the overall health of Flesh and Blood?
Well, I think a lot of this is going to tie into the ban restricted announcement. I will say that I think that the state of Classic Constructed right now is like most every other game at a competitive level, every other collectible game or miniature game at a competitive level. You have top tier decks, you have B tier decks, you have C tier decks, and then you have decks that are really just fan favorites that aren't as competitive. Blitz, on the other hand, I think is absolutely wonderful. I guess Viscerai is oppressive. Yes, they probably are going to have to do something about Viscerai because turn one putting out 20 points of damage is a lot. But you still see other decks being able to combat that. You see decks out there and metas where Vis doesn't make the top 8 consistently. So, I think overall those two formats are good. We haven't had a limited season since Tails, and since I did so much of that in prep for and at callings and nationals, I think it's okay. Overall, though, I think Flesh and Blood right now is still missing a key element, which is the ultimate pit fight style, the casual, friendly style of gameplay that isn't competitive. And I think that's something that hopefully will be addressed this year. I know James White has alluded to some things coming out for it soon, but I would really like to see more commoner type games, more ultimate pit fight type games. That brings in a more casual base, and that's the backbone of any good collectible card game.
Yeah. The life and health of a game lives on the kitchen table a lot of the times, and it might take a bit, but I think we're gonna get there, especially as these you're looking at, I got like we have 3 more SCG cons with Flesh and Blood being supported at it this summer. As more people kind of gather together, as we kind of hopefully get out of this pandemic. I'm hoping more people are going to be willing to sit down in a group and play together. And I think as that happens, and people make more content, and, you have some great people making content for that, like Az from Gogun Gaming and Red Zone Rogue. They're all making UPF content. And as we see more of that, I'm hoping that, it gets a little more support. But, so let's get to that banned and restricted announcement that happened this week. It was quite a doozy. The banned restricted announcement came out, this past Monday, our time in the U.S. It was Tuesday in Oceania, down in New Zealand. And, for like the whole month leading it, like basically from calling Indy, to this, everybody was talking. I mean, it was bizarre to me, Rick, or not bizarre. It was very interesting to me that it started from like, I think Starvo needs to be errata to just do this, and then it grew into, it could be any one of these number of things that get hit, and I was like, holy smokes, where this, like, it was, the evolution of it was so crazy and like, out of control, and only for LSS to come out and say no changes, which was pretty interesting. But that wasn't the most interesting thing about it. You might be able to speak on this a little bit better in terms of the kind of fumbling LSS did on this lovely
Sure.
announcement.
Well, I mean, I can't speak on it. I don't have any inside information. I do not work
Yeah.
for, nor do I have direct contact with LSS regarding their announcements or their fumbling. And
I mean,
do want to say that
yeah.
it did spiral. Like the cry for bans always spirals when it echoes with something people want. We saw the same thing with Briar back in Tales of Aria in the Nationals, UK Nationals. Matthew Folks wins with a Lightning Briar. Tarek wins the US Nationals with a Lightning Briar. Everybody's screaming, Briar must go, changes to Briar. This deck's broken. This game's broken, da 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 da. But by the time Canada's National happened, it didn't win.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a popular deck. It was a powerful deck, but it was definitely like a week 1, week 2 type of deck where aggro's reigned supreme. And as people learned how to play in it, there were other decks that did well. There were other strategies that were beating it. Oldham was doing really well into that Briar deck, and it was slowing it down. Then Australia and New Zealand happened, and we saw a different take on Briar, or not Briar, but on Oldham. And people were just like, "Oh, wow, Oldham is just amazing," and it was like, yeah, they reacted because the UK, the Nationals in New Zealand and Australia, the ban had already happened. The errata to Briar had already happened. The ban on Plunderrun Run had already happened, and the same with Ball Lightning. But for those events, the ban was not in effect, so it was just like playing it pre-ban, and we saw lower number of people playing the deck and more people trying to beat the deck. And that's kind of what I think we've seen a lot with Starvo. And Starvo's just really good. Like, is it too good? It's living legend status good. That's what it is. And I think that's something that LSS wants. They put this benchmark out there. And this is where my brain was going with this. They put a benchmark out there like, hey, if something's too good, it'll hit this living legend status, and then you won't have to worry about it. You can't play it anymore. But every time something started doing good, like Chain, like Briar, the community has cried for a ban, and LSS has stepped in and went, Seeds has got to go. Plunder Run and Ball Lightning have to go. We've got to errata this. And then you don't see quite the same performance out of those decks. And so you start getting a larger and larger pool, which is great. But what are you going to ban except ban Starvo? You're going to ban the marquee hero because he's too good? I don't think. I think they're making the right call with the no call. However, it would have been a lot better. Anybody listening is to put the next ban restricted update on May 16th, not May 2nd. And we can get into that. But or don't change and add a bunch of events to try and get Starvo to Living Legend before the Pro Tour. Like either you ban him and make other changes, or you don't ban him and you don't make any other changes. But this split decision of we don't want to ban him, we want you to get him banned by getting him to Living Legend status. And oh, by the way, here's more ways to do it. And oh, by the way, we screwed up our own events in this math because some of them were blitz events and some of them didn't exist. There's a Battle Harden that was added that didn't exist just to try and give enough opportunities for Starvo to hit Living Legend status. He's currently at 814, which means that he needs 186 points. In order to do that, he has to win the calling to get the 100, and then he has to win 3 out of 4 of the Battle Hardened events to hit Living Legend status.
Yeah. Now, so it did feel like they meant. I mean, this was like it just felt very almost Mr. Bean-esque in terms of them posting this announcement. It felt like they were supposed to post the changes first, and then they didn't, and then they had everybody's like, wait a second, this doesn't add up, and then they had to change their actual announcement 3 times. I think was what was counted, and and then they posted the Battle Hardened update, article or whatever, with the apology at the bottom of that one saying, sorry, this was supposed to be out before, yada yada yada. And it was very I would say unprofessional to come from a premier company. I understand things happen, and
but I challenge you to remember they are a smaller company. They're not Hasbro. They're not WotC. This is a small team of people trying to coordinate a lot of things, and they're giving us one heck of a game for the size of the company. Like if you could peel back the layers, I had the pleasure of talking to some people from LSS, and I mean a lot of people wear different hats, and unfortunately sometimes mistakes happen. And this, in my opinion, was an unfortunate mistake.
Yeah, it was definitely a mistake, and I know, and believe me, Rick, I try to remind people how small of a company they are all the time.
Right.
But small company, it did feel, even though they are small, it did feel to me like, come on, guys, get put the right articles out at the right time. Sure, they made a mistake. I don't personally care as much. I was hoping for no changes, to be honest. I mean, I thought I don't know how much I agree with the May 2nd announcement, the kind of try to push to get him to Living Legend. It seems a little panicky to me, and I agree with you that May 16th should have been the real announcement.
Well, here's the issue. So, trying to think of the way that I want to phrase this. You have a first pro tour ever happening. You want all eyes on your product. You have people from different games watching this pro tour because Organized Play is just coming back for their game, or hasn't come back for their game, or they got burnt out on their game just playing online, and they're looking for something new, and you have all eyes on you. And the last thing you want is negative publicity going into that big event that you want all eyes. I'm going to guess, I'm going out on a limb and saying we're going to get preview cards of the next set
100%
at the Pro Tour on coverage because they want everybody to get excited. Now, Tark did a phenomenal job in pointing something out online where he said no matter what, because people were saying, well, if they don't ban Starvo, it's going to be a stale, it's going to be a lame duck Pro Tour because if he wins, he automatically hits Living Legend. But there's a set coming out right after the Pro Tour. Comes out in June.
Yeah.
And so we're going to have a new meta to begin with. So that argument is invalid in my opinion, because every time a set comes out, the meta changes. We get new heroes. We get new cards for existing heroes. We have already knowing that this is going to change. So we need something that's professional. We need something that looks good. We need some people that are piloting decks that they know. And I think the May 2nd date was really because if Starvo hits Living Legend, I would assume that there are cards that will be on the chopping block. If Starvo doesn't hit Living Legend, if somehow he doesn't hit the required 186 points needed to hit the Living Legend status, then they're not going to ban anything. But if he does, I think we're going to see some cards banned because once he's gone, I think Viscera is too powerful. I think it's kept in check with Starvo being able to punish their hand and pressure them. And I think that's why they made that announcement, because if he hits Living Legend status, then I'm going to assume that they're going to address other problematic cards and kind of give us a week one format, with the exception of all the cards. You have 11 days technically, but really 9 days to practice with the new cards, air quotes used that you can't see.
Yeah. I am in the opinion that the Viscera is certainly powerful. It's a great deck.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think, I disagree a little bit. I think that Starvo's keeping other decks in check that have great matchups against, or have better play against Viserai than we think. I would be willing to bet if Starvo got banned or Living Legend and they didn't do anything to Viserai. I feel like Viserai would still be very powerful, probably A S tier. I think we'd see some more decks come out of the kind of the rubble in a way, and probably because to me Viserai, and I've been making this comparison for Magic players and stuff like that. There was a deck in Magic called Infect, right? Infect was a very potent deck, but in a tournament environment where people were expecting it could easily falter because if you're prepared for it, I felt like it's beatable. The same thing to me feels like I'm seeing that with Viserai. Now, Viserai is certainly powerful, and I'm sure at some point we're gonna have to see Skelda or Sonata tinkered with or in some way.
Hot take.
Hit me with it.
It's either of those cards.
Oh, what do you think it is?
If it were me making the decision, I'd get rid of Mordred Tide.
The double rune chant card.
Well, they +1. So whenever you would create one, create an additional one, because that is what enables the explosive turns quicker.
Mm-hmm.
If you slow it down, if you take away its ability to just go Mordred Tide into, an attack action card that has go again into a Revel in Runeblood. Look at how many rune chants you just made. How many times Viserai's made 2? Swarming makes 2 for playing it, plus it makes 4 + 1, which is 5. I mean, you've made 9 rune chants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Mordred certainly, the lifeblood of that deck. I wonder if I guess the deck still has play without Mordred Tide.
Right,
just less explosive.
Right, and if that's the complaint, and that's what I'm saying right now is where I think that deck has to be addressed because it can outrace Starvo, not consistently, but it's a coin flip. It can outrace it. Most of the time, you're going with the OTK plan where you're just trying to block out as much as you can and make as many rune chants as you can, and then you're going for that big Sonata turn. And once that deck is gone, I don't think you have to really have. I mean, you still have the OTK plan in there for decks like Oldhim and Control Dash and decks like that, which I agree. Once Starvo's gone, I think you see Dash come back with a vengeance because she's really good. Just Starvo is disruptive, too much. But I think that deck comes back and she does have poise to play with against Viserai. Dissolution Sphere. Hello.
Oh yeah,
love that card.
That's probably like some of the best game plan against Viserai out there. Now, all right. So here's the question though, Rick.
Sure.
Does this somewhat of a fumble? I mean, it's hard to say how much of a fumble. Clearly, the execution was not there, right? The miscommunication and having to change things, whatever. Honestly, it was just fun to watch. For me, I thought, it's like this is crazy. People are freaking out. Does this cause lasting damage?
Potentially.
Okay.
So here's why I say that, because again, all eyes are starting to shift towards your first pro tour. You have a lot of new players or people that are prospecting the game, looking at it, going, I wonder if I could, maybe I should, type of conversation into wow, this is just a real dumpster fire, isn't it? Look, they can't even do X, Y, and Z correct.
Yeah.
That's my problem with the way it was handled and with the fumble, with the decision that they made. I'm okay with the decision, just push back the next ban restricted and just write it out. The format's going to change anyway after the Pro Tour because we're going to have a new set. If he hits Living Legend status, cool, let him hit it, whenever, but it doesn't go in effect till there's a ban restricted. Push it back. Problem solved. Now everybody can prep. Nobody has to prep 3 different decks or 4 different decks, depending upon all these different scenarios that could happen.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess looking at this, you have to imagine this decision. Ultimately, they obviously want Starvo out. They want Starvo to hit Living Legend, but they don't want to do anything to him explicitly. They want it to happen naturally, and I think their reasoning here is they don't want a lot of Starvo mirrors on camera at the Pro Tour. I think they're worried that that is a worse look for the game than they're kind of hedging on that. It seems like I don't know if that's the case. This is just speculation, but I could see that, and maybe they just like, well, this is our first Pro Tour. What if we set it up in a way that like almost any hero is going to show up on camera?
Sure.
Let's really showcase. We have was it like 16, 17, 18 heroes, adult heroes in the game, something like that. Let's showcase the fact that we have that because a lot of the conversation has been, it's just it's just three decks, which I actually think is a good thing for the competitive scene. But maybe this they want to get that good marketing for the game as a whole. I don't know if that is a valid strategy. I don't know. I mean, I would love to see a bunch of different heroes on camera. As someone who's not in the Pro Tour, but some of these Pro Tour players are a little worried. They're a little
Yeah.
on edge
Yeah.
for good reason. Like, well, how do I test? And how do you feel that these players should be testing?
Well, first of all, I do want to circle back to what you were just saying, because there's a very big point I want to make. The Triangle of Doom, so penned by Flake, Prism, Viscerai, and Starvo. That was the Indianapolis Calling.
Yep.
And that had some of the best coverage.
Easily.
Yeah, you saw a lot of the same matchups, but you have the early rounds where you're looking for people playing different decks. You're looking for the Katsu, the Azalea, the Dash player, the Levia player. You're looking for people to put on camera. Okay, you're looking for people that are really good at the game to put on camera. There's a lot of factors that go into who gets on camera, but just like in a Magic event, I go back to modern, even current modern, the recent SCG event that had modern in it. There were top 8. There were 3 copies or 4 copies of Living End in that. Kind of the same as a Calling, where you have 3 to 4 Starvos in it, 2 to 3 Prisms in it, and some number of Viscerai in it, or Chain. Chain being the outlier that nobody ever talks about in that Triangle of Doom, but still you see 2 of them in a top 8 every time you turn around. They travel in pairs, I've noticed. If you see one chain, there's another chain in the top 8 somewhere. Yeah. It is very consistent throughout all collectible card games that there are some decks that are positioned slightly better, or some mechanics that are positioned slightly better, and that's the job, is to identify how to play into those matchups, how to beat those matchups, things of that nature. So honestly, it's very common. I think there are ways you can get a more diverse viewing, but you want good gameplay over the diversity of heroes, I think. And the commentary crew that I know will be there is going to do a phenomenal job. And they are going to knock it out of the park once again. So I'm not worried about the coverage.
Yeah.
When it comes to how people should prepare for the Pro Tour, I'm not qualified for the Pro Tour. I only played in 2 Pro Quests, didn't get there. So I will say what I would do if I were them is very reminiscent of the way I prepare for anything. And that is I would have a plan and a backup plan. So for example, if you start testing now knowing that Starvo is currently still in, we've had the same meta since Everfest came out. Second week since Everfest came out, we have had Starvo being a dominant force. We've had 27 Aura Prism. We've had a Viscerai aggressive build with an OTK package. These are decks that people become very familiar with, and their lines have been very familiar. So if you're not playing one of the three of the Triangle of Doom, if you're playing Chain, or if you're playing Bolton, or if you're playing Levia, you are already preparing to play into those matchups. That's plan A. You have had a lot of time to practice that, and if you're comfortable with that meta, with those matchups, then start prepping for plan B. Starvo being gone. Now try your best to identify who do you think is going to be there. Well, if Starvo goes away, does that mean Prism falls off? Because Prism struggles in the go wide decks that Starvo's keeping at bay. That Katsu that just can't outrace Starvo, just one step behind, one turn behind in damage, is going to really punish 27 Aura Prism.
Yeah.
So does that mean Prism falls off? So now you're looking at Katsu, you're looking at a hyper aggressive meta. Like I would just have a backup plan, maybe two. Maybe this is where you have that backup plan and you have the backup plan to the backup plan. and that's what I did. I have a list of 3 decks. So if I were to go to the Calling in New Jersey, if I were playing in the Calling in New Jersey and Starvo is legal, I am playing Viscerai.
Okay.
If Starvo is gone and nothing is banned, I'm playing Viscerai. If Starvo is gone and cards are banned out of Viscerai and out of other heroes, I'm playing Dash. And
Okay.
I'm working on the lists now to combat those the 2 backup plans. Now I'll have 9 days to test, which is not a long time to test, but Magic Pro Tours used to have Pro Tours that happened 2 weeks after a set came out.
Yep.
And people tuned into that. It is some of the best watched things when you have a new meta. When you have a new set, you have a new meta in Magic. People tune in to watch it because they want to see what other people are doing. It helps them chew through the fat of a set and get down to the really good cards, or they're looking for interactions that they want to latch onto. And it's the same thing with Flesh and Blood. Anytime a new set comes out, that first big event that's going to be streamed, probably a Calling, or if your local store streams or whatever, you're looking for all the new interaction with the new cards. And hey, it's a great time to make content, but it's a great time to consume content. And so yeah, there's pros and cons there. I think it's something that people should be prepared for. Like I said, have a plan. Have a plan for it not being banned or Living Legend. Have a plan for it being Living Legend. Have a plan for it being Living Legend and other cards being banned. And that's the one, that limbo, that last one is the hard part, because maybe you're like me and you want to play Viscerai, but you don't know if they're going to ban something out of Viscerai. Have a backup plan. If you think your deck might have cards on the radar of LSS to answer, have a backup plan to your backup plan.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been looking at it like a sports team that's about to go up against about to go up against the Lakers. LeBron's hurt, but he might make it. He's a game time decision. You don't know. So you gotta have a game plan for that game, regardless. If he shows up or not, and he in this scenario is Starvo. I have my backup plans, Rick. You ready for him? If Starvo isn't banned, I'm playing Levia. If he is banned, I'm playing Levia, and then if he's banned and some other things are banned, I'm definitely playing Levia. So I am all set over here. I actually have a really sweet list. It'll be coming out on YouTube either this week or next week, buds. But this has been a pretty awesome episode, Rick. I'm really happy that you came on.
I'm glad you asked me to. It's been fun. Can you ship me that list, by the way? I may or may not have a crush on Levia.
Oh yeah, I'll send it to you, buddy. But yeah, so this has been a lot of fun. I mean, all things, kind of wrap it all up. It was a pretty wild announcement. I agree with the no changes. The May 2nd, we both seem to be kind of a little iffy on. Overall, I'm interested to see what happens. I understand some people's reservations, like, especially if they're coming overseas, for the Pro Tour, like, how many decks should I pack if it's like a brand new meta. I understand that, and I am empathetic towards it. But it's going to be tough, and I still think the Pro Tour is going to be the best of the best in the world, and they're going to figure you guys got there for a reason. You guys are going to figure it out, and it'll be fun for us to watch. Even though we'll probably be playing in the calling and just winning.
More than likely.
Yeah.
Calling, side events, battle hardened, bar tab. Take your pick.
Yeah, well, most likely the bar tab, but
that's the game I'm playing.
Yeah.
One thing you said real quick though, if
yeah.
I may interject one small thing. You were talking about people preparing and what decks to bring. It has been a proven fact. You can get a lot farther with a hero that you know inside and out than a hero that you switch to with just a week or two of practice.
Yeah.
So to people that are on the fence, look, jam games, best case, worst case scenario, with the hero that you're most comfortable with. That should be your backup plan. Dash is my backup plan. I'm extremely comfortable with Dash. The only reason why it's not my go-to is I'm also comfortable with Viserai. And if they don't ban anything, I just think Viserai is better. But I think Dash can beat Viserai, so who knows? I might be, secretly on Dash. But yeah, I mean, Levia is definitely a solid choice. And
we'll see.
I mean, I've seen what Mansant can do with Levia.
Oh yeah, Mansant. Hoping to get him on the pod.
No, please do.
Oh, that would just be a Levia love fest. But Rick, I want you to plug all of your things for the people out there and where to find you.
The easiest way to find me is on Twitter. It's Rick from BCW. Just search that. You'll find me on Twitter. It's kind of a running joke with some friends, so that's why I do that. You can also follow BCW Supplies on YouTube. I put up Flesh and Blood content up there regularly, and I do my best to give you guys great information on breaking down deck techs and breaking down cards available and the game overall. And yeah, that's my only two plugs. Simple man.
Cool. Yeah, well, all the buds out there, I hope you do check out Rick if you haven't already. You got great content. You're also just a killer dude, and awesome to be able to count you as a friend. And you guys can all find me still at FreshBudsPod on Twitter. Email the show, freshbudspod@gmail.com. Join the Discord, the Buds. We have a lot of fun there. If you hop over onto YouTube, I'm back doing the Fresh Five now that I'm fully moved into the new Casa de Fresca. And Rick, I like to close out every episode with a little bit about food. I want you to tell me about some food that you're enjoying right now, or a local dish to you that you really love, or even just a restaurant. Hit me with some Rick food suggestions for the Buds.
I am a snob when it comes to chili. I love chili, especially now it's like 40, 50 degrees, raining here in the Midwest. I make my own chili. I blend different meats, peppers, but I always start whatever chili I make it with a sweet molasses base to start with, and then I bring the temperature up. Typically, one of my favorite go-to peppers for that is a sriracha pepper, just because it's got a sweet heat to it. So that kind of slowly builds up, and you can always get a very, very high heat flavor out of fresh shaved ginger on top. So, yep, chili is my jam. I absolutely love it, and I love making it.
Oh my God, that sounds so good right now. It's like chilly and rainy here in Jersey today too. It's like, oh man, that's like the perfect meal. I'm a big chili fan as well. But thank you for that, Rick, and everybody, please have a great week.